Hello, welcome to This Week in Japan. I'm the Gaijin John.
I'm the Geek Tom.
And together we are Geeks and Gaijins, and we bring you everything that has happened in 1 week in the land that we call Japan. I mean, here they don't even call it Japan, they call it Nihon. That's your first bomb fact here, which you probably already knew.
I mean, at this point, if you're here listening to a podcast to hear weird trivia from the local Japanese news, you probably know a little bit of Japan. But if you don't know, we have a whole bunch of other Japan facts for you. John has a whole history series on Japan.
Which, statistically, you've probably already listened to, because they're our most popular thing. So, this week, what have we got for us, Thomas?
We have giant robots,
Yay.
frogs,
Yay.
and houses.
Oh, and also I have Starbucks, because I am white trash.
I can confirm, folks, I'm looking at him right now, and he is just the pinnacle of white trash.
I mean...
He moved to Japan
and
studied Japanese, and goes to a Japanese high school.
As a teacher, Thomas. I'm a teacher. I didn't just
You're an
up.
assistant teacher, John.
I'm an
assistant teacher.
Okay, fine. I don't like you anymore.
Podcast's over, folks. Goodbye.
Well, we'll just have to see how it works out with my very special University Potatoes Frappuccino. And yes, that is a direct translation.
It surprisingly makes sense, actually.
Maybe. Does anything coming out of my mouth make sense? Regardless, if you want other people's opinions about Japan, you can soon have them, because Japan is letting people back in! Apart from you, Thomas.
Apart from me, I'm permabanned. I'm not allowed into the country anymore after what I did.
I spoke to my best bud, Shinzo Abe, and he said, maybe we'll let people back in, but just not Thomas.
It's probably for the best. They know too much.
And by Thomas, I mean by extension, tourists. Basically, you can come into Japan, just not to do fun things. You can come into work, you can come back to live your life if you're one of the several thousand people who have Japanese permanent residence but weren't allowed back in because... So people are actually going to be able to come to Japan to work after you have a valid corona test and you self-isolate for 2 weeks, and then you do a handstand and eat some bread.
Fill out some forms, I'm sure.
Yes, many
There's
forms.
got to be so many forms.
And after that, woo, you're in Japan.
Welcome home, buddy.
Yeah.
We missed you so much.
Yeah. Which actually means that I actually might be able to leave Japan at some point. Though that's not happening, because that would require weeks of holiday I do not have. Because to put it into perspective, if I went back to the UK right now, which I could do, and then get back to Japan, I would have to take 4 weeks of holiday, and technically that is all self-isolation. Because I'd have to fly to the UK. Well, no, even longer than that, technically. I'd have to fly to the UK, sit in self-isolation for 2 weeks, then somehow get a corona test, so I'm valid, and... Somehow.
Add another 2 weeks on top of that.
Yeah, and then I have to fly back to Japan, and then take 2 weeks to self-isolate once I get to Japan. That's assuming I don't get a valid corona case somehow, because if I then have that, I'm then stuck in the UK. Sorry, parents, not coming home for Christmas. But enough of my twisted family life.
That was a slip of the tongue. Oh my god.
I thought it would be good for people to know that yes, you can come to Japan. Maybe. For those people who are sitting at home going, I really want to come to Japan. Well, Japan does not have jobs. Apart from jobs for assistant language teachers, they seriously need those at the moment. Like, seriously. This was brought to you by the Japan Tourism Board. This message was not officially sanctioned by Shinzo Abe and my man Suga, as I call the new Prime Minister.
My man Suga. My best bud.
He's not replied to any of my emails yet, but we're on that level. I can feel it.
He might not know what an email is, John. Let's be real. He's Japanese.
Good point. But one thing that is quintessentially Japanese, as not understanding computers, is bigger, terrifying computers. Thomas.
In the shape of a man-sized robot. Not man-sized, man-shaped robot. Shape of a man-sized robot. No, size, right. Anyway, there's a big old mech in a city in Japan.
Tell me something I don't know, Thomas. Big robots in Japan? That's what my documentary Evangelion has told me all about. And yes, I just said Jellion because I can't pronounce words.
I don't think you're ready for this, Jellion. There is a 18-meter tall Mobile Suit Gundam currently sitting in the port city of Yokohama, which is, I believe, a little south of Tokyo. The size of a building is 18 meters tall. It weighs 25 tons and is designed to be part of the new Gundam Factory Yokohama, which I believe seems to be some sort of like new hot tourism destination for the city. The website is all about what an international city Yokohama is as a port for trade and culture and whatnot. And it seems like it's going to have a whole bunch of sites and facilities available for people to come and look at the giant robot and do other Gundam-related stuff.
This giant robot can actually move, right? Because there's already a big Gundam somewhere around Tokyo, because I went to it.
This isn't the first giant robot, but it's the first giant robot that moves.
So it's the first one that's actually a robot.
It's got 24 movable parts, which is pretty impressive. It took like 6 years for the engineers to design all this. And I think they started building it last year or something. I couldn't quite find the timeline of this.
Is it fully functional and anatomically correct?
It's anatomically correct for the 1970s Mobile Suit Gundam series, yes. Although I think this is actually a new design. As you said, it can move. There have been videos online of it sped up at like 4 times speed. So it moves very slowly, but it does move. So it can take a knee, as shown, and it can also seems to be able to reach up its right arm, its index finger up, which is neat.
It can point to things very slowly. That's a less exciting anime than I thought. What are you doing? What are you doing? There's something coming over there.
It's not quite going to save the world from other Gundam or like Kaiju, Pacific Rim style or anything yet. It would take it several days to throw a punch, probably. It's something.
Welcome to the Iron Giant 2020 edition. Just points at someone and goes, Superman.
You stay, I go. And just off into outer space all of a sudden. We didn't plan this. That's a whole bunch of money and 6 years of development gone. What the fuck?
How did that happen? Elon Musk, are you behind this?
Only I can build the giant robots now, Japan.
Yeah.
Although you never know what the Japanese are coming up with their military. Maybe it is a secret plan to war robots.
Japan is finally trying to get rid of fax machines, so I wouldn't be too scared of them, guys. We are slowly getting to the early 2000s.
Unsurprisingly, it's not very practical as a device. I don't think the point of Gundams have ever been the practicality and more because it just looks cool.
When I looked at massive Japanese robots, I thought, you know what? That is the most practical way to do anything. Not like a gun or a bigger gun. No, I thought a massive man-sized robot that for some reason has to be controlled by someone inside the robot. Yes.
But it's awesome because it looks like a really big dude. So that's the point, isn't it? That's what we're all here for.
I think someone's compensating for something, but there we are.
Goddamn.
The entire city of Yokohama.
It was supposed to be unveiled on the 1st of October, which is in a few days' time.
But it got unveiled early?
No, they just, obviously because of the whole situation, they've decided that they're going to delay, like, the whole opening the grounds to people, but they decided to make some announcements on their social media, I think, to show everyone that, yes, everything is still proceeding as planned. Do not panic. The Gundam will move.
Yes, we have a giant robot. No, you cannot touch it. No, you cannot get your ball back. We're keeping it. Yes, everyone, goodbye.
You may observe the giant robot from a safe distance, because you never know what that thing is going to do.
Apparently slowly point at things, so...
It might crush you with its giant knee if you're very, very slow. So, just be careful for that. They're still planning on, like, opening this to the public later in the year. When exactly, I don't think they've decided yet, for good reason. but they're fingers crossed that they'll be able to have a situation where they can start making money off this thing soon.
I'd half believe that Japan just goes, you know what? We're just going to rename 2021 2020. And just go, yep, we're just doing a redo. It was the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. It is still the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Though they have rebranded that as 2020 plus one, which I think is nice.
I mean, when you have such a killer 2020 logo design, you kind of don't want to waste it. You just want to stick a +1 on the end.
That logo that is going viral across the internet is not real. Shut up.
Is it not?
No, the one with the big red Japan flag is not the official logo of the 2020 Olympics.
Don't be fooled by the internet.
Do not be fooled.
Abraham Lincoln, 1920. A fun little tidbit from the Gundam story, by the way, that I found. You don't have to include this in the podcast, but the head of the Gundam, before it was attached to the body, was purified by Shinto priests in an adaptation of a ceremony called Jotoshiki, I think.
Why would I not include that in the podcast, Thomas? That's amazing.
It was such an odd little tidbit I had to say. Apparently, Jotoshiki is like some sort of roof-laying ceremony that they do on the buildings when it's near complete. Like, it's supposed to mark the building nearly being finished. Not when the building is finished, just before the building is finished, they have this ceremony with the roof. I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to knock it too hard. But yeah, priests will load the mech, apparently.
From what I remember, I might be wrong, but for a lot of things like that, they tend to have a kind of ceremonial rafter or something that people tend to find that have like the dated parts of this building was almost complete at this bit. So when lots of people are rebuilding or finding bits of Japanese structures, they go, this is the really old bit when they originally completed this. This is not only a giant Gundam, it's a blessed giant Gundam. Thomas, I've worked out what it's for.
Mm-hmm.
It's for fighting giant vampires.
You know what? I would not put it past, just the universe in general to go, psych, giant vampires all along. That's how everything ends. Not in a scream or whimper, but in just, I want to suck your blood accents.
And speaking of vampires, there is an economic vampire that has been draining my wallet ever since I came to Japan. And that is called Starbucks. Oh, Starbucks. And so we are going to have to go to the past to experience my tasting of the Daigaku Imo Frappuccino.
I believe you explained all this like 30 minutes ago, John. I think they'll find out.
I know, but I can't remember if I did or not. But now we're gonna find out. Time travel noises! I'm still in my gym clothes. I've just woken up Thomas. I've come straight from the streets of wild Japan, clutching my treasure, my Daigaku Imo Frappuccino. I had to avoid cars, the gym, also my students in Starbucks.
You never want to see your students in the wild. It'll break their hearts.
You know when you saw your teacher outside of school and you're like, you don't sleep there? Well, have it even worse when I was there in my gym clothes. With my scary gym mask as well. So I was like, you couldn't see, like, half my face was covered.
What my reaction to that was, my initial reaction was, well, if you're wearing a mask, you could probably get away with them not recognizing you. And then I thought about that for like 2 seconds.
So, quickly, because this is melting, because I brought it in, like, straight in, and it's about a 5 to 10 minute car ride, and it's a Frappuccino. So, Daigaku Imo. Daigaku means university. Imo means potato. This is University Potato Frappuccino. It's basically Japanese equivalent of pumpkin spice. It's a sweet potato Frappuccino. Apparently became popular in like Tokyo University, which is why it's called Daigaku Imo, I think. I don't know. Don't quote me on that one. But it seems it's full of orange. They sprinkled toasted sesame seeds on top, which is like, in my head, is a savory thing. So... I'm concerned, but it's covered in whipped cream, and I haven't had a part of it yet, and I'm dying from the gym. So, Kampai itadakimasu. Drink.
Bon appetit.
That is confusing.
Confusing how? Use your words, John.
What am I, some kind of podcaster? It's honeyed sweet potato is the dish of like Daigaku Imo, honeyed sweet potato.
Ooh.
So I'm getting the taste of honey, and it tastes weirdly savory. Like pumpkin spice is just sweet. It's kind of like an earthier honey tasting frappuccino.
That does sound slightly odd.
I think they do whiz up like an actual thing of sweet potato in there, so you do get like bits, and there's like sauce running through it, and it's all milky and creamy as all frappuccinos are.
Got a solid frappuccino there, John.
To be honest, yes. I probably wouldn't have it again, but just because like I'm not the biggest fan of sweet potato in the world.
Ah, absolute heresy. How can you not like sweet potato, John?
It's not that I don't like it. It's that I don't love it as much as the Japanese do.
That's fair. I think that would be a hard bar to reach.
In Japan, they just have like fully baked sweet potatoes, and you just sit there and eat it. That's so much potato. And I've done that of like all the Japanese people around me like zooming their way through it, and I'm like this is nice. I could have been finished about a third of a sweet potato ago, but there we are.
You'd have been done. You'd have been fine. I'll tell you what, though. Sweet potato chips or sweet potato fries for American listeners, they're pretty good. We had started having those in my family a few months back, and they're very nice. Almost about as good as regular chips. They're obviously getting a different thing out of it because it's sweet potato. So it's not quite as savory, and doesn't work quite so well with salt, but it's all right.
I feel like you'd need that kind of sweet and salty mix because that's what's kind of missing. Yeah, no, I think it is missing some kind of saltiness or something in it.
Bit of caramel in there?
With the chocolate chestnut one, that one had a bit of coffee in it, which counteracted the nuts and the sweetness of it. This needs, like, something. I don't know what. I'm not a frappuccinoizer, but...
A frappuccinist.
But no, good, and it is uniquely Japanese, and I think they've had them on their autumn menu for the past, 3 years, maybe more.
Ooh.
So if you come to Japan in autumn, it's very likely you can get a Daigaku Imo Frappuccino. Daigaku Imo Frappuccino.
And be cultured, I guess, is the goal here.
Basically, it's very good at being the thing it's trying to be. Daigaku Imo, which are just, they're fried sweet potatoes, glazed with honey, and usually covered in some kind of sesame seed as well. The thing is with them is they tend to have like a crunchy outer shell them, so after you've fried them, so then it's like sweet and crunchy. So I kind of get that. You obviously don't get that in a frappuccino. If you love sweet potatoes, you'll love this. If you're on sweet potatoes, you'll vaguely enjoy this. I'll give this one a sesame seed out of 10. And now I will send you back to the future. Oh, and we're back. That's me from the past. God, I was so thin. Before I drank the entire frappuccino. But yeah, it was good. Now frogs.
Speaking of magic, frogs.
That's a much better segue.
Is it really? I don't think it is.
So Japan is the home of frogs. Why am I talking about this?
As most places are, in fact.
But Japan has some of the most adorable frogs ever, and I thought this week I want to talk about them. So this is based slightly on the article from Sora News, which is just adorable because it's a mysterious eyes found in Japanese vending machine coin slot, and it's just a little frog who's sitting in the vending machine, like, giving you the evils and staring out.
He just wants some dollar bills. Well, some coins, apparently.
He wants those 100 yens. He's there being a cutie. And the thing is, I really like frogs, or kaeru, as they are in Japanese. Generally, they're just cute, and Japan has lots of very small ones. He's the Japanese or Asian tree frog, which is the most common frog in Japan. And there are 60 gazillions of them. There are loads of the tiny, tiny things. They generally don't get much bigger than, I'd say maybe half your thumb is standard froggo size. Well,
I mean, there's got to be a way it managed to get into that penny slot somehow, right? That's a very wee frog.
about the size of a quarter. There you go, about the size of a quarter. And Japan is covered in these mini frogs, and generally what they do is they hang around rice paddy fields, and they're generally a good sign that your paddy field is like nice and healthy, because they'll eat loads of like all the insects and pests that you don't want in your paddy fields. But what they do, which is kind of adorable, is they kind of like half do some sleeping like during the day. What they do when it comes to resting at night time is they'll hop over towards artificial lights to then eat all the insects that get attracted to the lights at night time. And so what happens is my entryway, because my school is in the middle of multiple paddy fields, when I go to and from work and leave it, the entire doorway, like there's just, you don't notice it if you're just walking in through, but if you look up and start staring, then you're like, oh, there's a frog, and there's a frog, and there's a frog. And it's just like on top of all like the little lights, in the corners of the sliding doors, and they're just like, some of them like up and above you, some of them looking down and judging you, some of them like all clubbled together. Like, I think I counted like almost 20 frogs. Like, just chilling.
I feel very sorry for one of our listeners, because I know there's going to be someone out there who's just listened to everything John said and is just screaming.
Well, this is the thing. No one notices it. I just looked up because I was waiting there for the bus one day. I looked up and was like, there's a frog. And there's some more frogs. But this is the teacher's entrance. So most of the teachers are going in and out, in and out. They don't mind. They don't pay attention. I showed one of my English teachers this, and they were like, They were shocked, and they were like, oh God, no, there's so many of them, no. Because it seems to be a common thing in Japan that people are kind of scared of frogs. I don't know, it's maybe because people think they're slimy, but they're just cute and they're not slimy at all.
They are usually wet, they're frogs.
Yeah, I know. So what did happen the other day was when I was going out is there were like hundreds of frogs there again. I was like looking at them, they're cute.
Oh God.
And there were two of my students who were waiting out there for the bus. And I go, can you see the frogs? Well, in my bad Japanese. And they're like, what frogs? And they're like, oh God, there's so many frogs. I'm like, yeah, am I right? But not.
What a way to endear yourself to your students, John.
Yeah.
Look at all those frogs you didn't notice.
I am the frog noticing. It's only the Gaijin.
Does this make you feel better now?
But so they ended up, one of the students was like, oh my God, that's so cute. The other of the students was like, oh my God, that's horrifying. And so, in their great English, which I think they meant to say, it was like, oh, you should pet one of the frogs. They just went like, touch the frog. I'm like, okay, my students want me to touch the frog. So I just like, went to one of the frogs to like give it a little like pat on the back. But because it was on the side, like, it automatically, when it realised that I was poking it, it, like jumped off the wall. And, of course, the closest thing to the wall was me. So, I literally, I like, petted the frog, and then it just, like, jumped off the wall and directly onto my forehead. I quickly, to which my audience of Japanese teenage girls, half laughed and screamed. And then I just bent over very quickly and the frog jumped off, having realised that, no, this is not a tree.
Maybe he just wanted to pet you, John.
Yeah, maybe he did. But I just think they're really cute and they don't get enough love from everyone. That generally, in Japan, you've got little emojis of poo. You've got loads of ugly things that are cute. Why not give cute frogs more cute treatment and get those kawaii kaeru? That was the reason I wanted to talk about frogs, everyone. Frog jumped on my face.
In other news, John has a strange red spot somewhere on his body now and he doesn't know where it came from.
Well, the frogs marked me as one of their own. The thing is, Thomas, that now I need a place to store all these frogs. Because they're adorable,
Obviously.
and there's so many of them, and they need a home.
Exactly. They need to know love and shelter.
But the thing is, Thomas, I can't afford a home. Because last time I checked houses, they are just too expensive.
Yes, I am also a millennial.
I went to the house shop, and they said, no, too expensive for you. Or that might be what they said. They were speaking Japanese. I didn't understand. So there is a big thing that has been going round the internet online, and that being that there is a Japanese house that is almost affordable. And by almost, I mean it is much more affordable than other houses.
What a revolutionary concept.
I know. And this is a house that is $28,000 US. Yes, that's right, $28,000 US. That is about the size as a mid-range family car. Well, it's about the price of a mid-range family car, but now you can live in it.
It's also about the size of a mid-range family car.
Yes, it
size
is both.
was correct.
It is both.
Spoilers.
Yes, and so this is 2.98 million yen. And it's about the size, I think I'm trying to work out. It's roughly 34 square meters, which is, to be honest, surprisingly big. It's like a little prefab. It's one floor. Duh. It's basically a big old kind of studio kind of flat, but a house.
Nice.
Before you go running to Kaiko Homes, who make this, there are some issues, Thomas.
Oh no. Issues with my super cheap house. Who'd have thought?
First of all, particular house was first built back in 2012. The company no longer offers them anymore.
Boo.
So you can no longer get your 2.98 million yen house. However, their parent company does still offer a much more expensive 3.8 million yen house. That one's about $35,000. Though that one does have 2 bedrooms.
Ooh.
Whether they are actually just rooms for a bed. They only fit a bed, no person. Nothing else. Just beds.
Bed closets. Nice.
The thing is, everyone, you might be thinking, why aren't we all just moving to Japan? Well, first of all, multiple reasons. Most of all that have been said in the last year of this podcast.
The reason you're not moving is probably the Japanese.
What's so good about Japan? The Japanese. What's so bad about Japan? The Japanese. Damn Japanese, they ruined Japan. For those who can't tell at home, that is a joke. I know we're not that funny a podcast. That was intended as a joke.
Most of John's friends are Japanese.
I know, I have Japanese friends, guys. Thing is, with buying Japanese homes, I don't own a Japanese home because that would be dumb. I rent an apartment. I've talked to my, Japanese friends about them. They exist.
They just go to another school.
You don't know them. They go to another podcast. Houses in Japan and house ownership in Japan is a little different. Because the thing is, Japan is really crowded. So, generally, land itself is at a premium because there's not much of it. And so what you do when you have some land in Japan is that's the expensive part. Thing is, don't really care about the house on top of it because you know what happens? Earthquakes and typhoons and also volcanoes and also tsunamis and also freak magical girls. I don't know, it's Japan.
Giant robots.
Giant robots, there we are. So the actual...
Honestly, who thought this would be a good place to live? Really? This was a terrible idea.
The Japanese, obviously. And me. That meaning that the houses themselves are not actually the expensive part, it's the land. And these houses, for these price tags, are actually you're just buying the prefab itself, and you need a place to put them. You need to own land to then put the house on top of. To build the house on top of. Because it's very common in Japan, because these houses aren't really built to last, because obviously they're so cheap. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to live in it for 20 years, and then I'll sell the land, go somewhere else. But the thing is, because these houses are so cheap, they're not built to last. And so it's very common that when you buy, like, a piece of land in Japan, which mostly will have a house already on it, most Japanese people will just bulldoze the house and build something new or buy one of these prefabs. It's not like the UK, when the house that I grew up in is 150 years old, to which I told my friends, and they were like, oh, is this your family's ancestral house? It's like, no. We moved in when I was like 4.
It's just old.
Yeah,
it's just been here a while.
It's just
someone
old.
else's first.
It's just old. This is the UK. Everything was someone else's first. Insert joke about Empire here. Welcome to the Geeks and Gaijins podcast.
I've never heard something more true said about the UK. Oh my god.
Back to Japanese houses, because I'm sure you want
back to the actual topic at hand.
Basically, that's the reason these houses are so cheap. And also why, whenever you go to a Japanese neighborhood or something, the kind of houses, they look so eclectic. Because that's something that people who visit Japan notice quite a lot, and especially when I'm walking around, there's not really like a set neighborhood style. So there'll maybe be when a set of land is like bought by the same buyer, and then it is like built houses on top of. Then they'll be like the same style, but that's not really like the norm. Basically, you'll walk around a neighborhood and everyone has a different weird style of house.
Funky.
They've all been like bulldozed whenever someone bought it and built a new one, because that's just cheaper than fixing up the houses. And
God,
it's a weird concept, but it's the thing that's been done in Japanese culture for hundreds of years. When I talk about like the really old places, and like when I was talking about Izumo Shrine last week, like the reason the physical building is less old than the shrine itself, you rebuild stuff every couple of 100 years or 20 years. When something stops working, you just rebuild it. Doesn't stop it being the house or the shrine. Insert the Theseus's ship argument here that Thomas then gets philosophical about.
It is philosophy. I think the Japanese have their own house spirit thing going on, so I probably shouldn't preach to them on that particular note.
You're gonna Japan.
I'm also just still reeling from the fact that you can just demolish a house in Japan and build a new one, and no one gives a damn, because down up here in England, if you want to have your windows fixed, you got to go by the council. Or fill out some forms, get everything approved. It's ridiculous. So that's just completely different.
I'm sure there are some rules. Like, you can't have a giant robot on there, for example. But obviously,
disappointing.
Obviously, most of those rules are written in Japanese. And I can just about ask for my frappuccinos in Japanese, let alone research town planning. But yes, so those are extremely cheap prefab houses. All you need now is somewhere to put them. Mum, do you have somewhere I can put my house for a bit?
What happens if you buy the house but don't have the land? Do you just get to live in the storage facility where the house is kept?
I don't think they let you live there, Thomas. Like, it's also, you buy a prefab. It's not like, I'm pretty sure they're built to order. It's like, you buy the concept of a house. You can't really live in a concept.
That sounds like a sound investment, investing in the concept of a house.
Wait, isn't that just the 2008 credit crisis?
Let's not talk about the credit crisis, John. Let's not question the systems in place.
We invested in the concept. And on that weird, strange note, it's the end of the show! Woo!
Yay! Thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
If you managed to make it this far somehow.
Woo! Well done you, if you did that. If you didn't, well, you're not here to hear this, so... Woo!
You won't know how disappointed we are in you. How dear.
If you came back later, well done. I appreciate you more than people who got through it on the first try. You got perseverance. You went, no, I'm going to come back to that podcast later, and woo, go you. You're the real MVP.
Everyone who has made it this far, let us know. Are you pro or anti-frog?
Pro or anti-frog?
You have to decide this now.
Pro or anti-house? Pro or anti-frogs in your house, on your house? Pro or anti-frog house?
Froggy house.
Froggy house.
With froggy furniture. This isn't my froggy house with my froggy wife.
I'm now just imagining a prefabbed, like, Animal Crossing style house where everything is just 2, from My Hero Academia, or Froppy. Yeah, I'm okay with this.
I think we would all be pro Froppy.
Yes, we are all pro Froppy. But where can they hear more of our pro Froppy voices, Thomas?
If you want to hear more pro Froppy propaganda, or something like that, you can hear us on Spotify, iTunes, our Podbean page. You can probably watch this on the Facebook page and our YouTube page. We are Geeks and Gaijins on all those platforms. I think John put us up on Amazon recently, so we're also there. Hello if you're listening from Amazon.
Hello, Mr. Bezos.
He was already listening to you, John. He has your Alexa.
Where is my Marmite, Mr. Bezos? Then where is my Marmite?
Where are my taxes, Mr. Bezos? Where are my taxes?
We also stream on Twitch. We work our way through Japanese video games. Generally, we are playing Danganronpa at the moment because it's just goddamn that fun. Danganronpa V3, as we have been playing for a long time.
Come listen to us do silly voices over serious characters. I say serious.
Semi-serious characters. Please give us a review on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere you can give us a review, because that we really appreciate it and it really helps the podcast as well. And if you have any questions or requests, please email us at geeksandgaijins@gmail.com. We are always here for you.
Well, I'm not. I'm very emotionally distant, in fact, so I wouldn't rely on me.
And I'm in Japan,
Probably
so I'm
should see a
physically
therapist.
distant, so...
Yeah, we cover the whole spectrum here at Geeks and Gaijins of emotional abuse, I guess.
Any last message for the people at home, Thomas?
Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes.
And we will see you next week in Japan.